Well, joining me now to discuss the challenges facing Barack Obama and America is John Raines. John is Deputy Director at Exclusive Analysis, an intelligence company that specializes in assessing risk. John, this healthcare victory is a huge one for Barack Obama, but how costly could it be for the Democrats at large?
Well, I think it's going to cost them quite a bit. I mean, coming into most midterm elections, especially for a first-term president, you're looking at losing anywhere in the neighborhood of about 20, 25 seats. And it's looking right now that they could well exceed that. I think that he's really galvanized the Republican base. And a lot of these marginal districts you're going to find in conservative districts, really in rural districts across the United States, might go Republican this time when, previously conservative Democrats were able to carry those guys. So I think he's going to lose.
So you're saying that this bill is actually unpopular amongst the people?
I'm saying that, if you look at the polls right now, I would say a majority of the people that have seen different aspects of the bill do not necessarily approve of it. Meaning they do like certain aspects of it. But overall, the sense has been that it's been kind of a negative for Democrats. Now it'll be interesting to see as we go forward whether the Republicans are able to position themselves against some of these more popular measures.
Right. The question here is, has Barack Obama used up the goodwill he had and the political capital that he had?
Well, I think that it was natural that he was going to lose some of that political goodwill after his first year. It was just impossible to kind of hold your approval ratings at 70% outside of a major crisis. And so I think that he has used up some of the capital, but the positive thing for him is that he's starting to change the conversation. I mean, this is an American public that has seen people basically griping at each other for the last year over one single subject. So to be able to move that conversation on, that's got to be a political winner for the president.
Yeah, you've got to move it on, but the two sides, the Democrats and Republicans, are so polarized here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one thing you've seen with the Republicans is that their strategy has been, we're going to be the party of no, because I think that for them, anything that they can oppose the president naturally galvanizes their bases. Anytime you can use demonic language as far as referring to your opponent is definitely going to be a positive in their corner.
Now, looking ahead here, we get these congressional elections. We get Republicans coming back into Congress in bigger numbers. Can they do something then to stymie this legislation?
Well, for health care, I think that at least for the next 2 to 3 years that you're not going to be able to see major movement there because, as long as they don't hold the presidency, he can really veto any legislation that they put forward. What you could see, of course, is if a Republican gets in 2012 and you have Republican majorities in both the Senate and the House, certainly they can go ahead and repeal this and put forth their own. But it's going to be difficult because a lot of these things are positive.
Let's have a look at what we have next for Obama. We've got a to-do list here. Diffuse tensions over Jerusalem settlements, that's one thing here. Okay. Reduce unemployment, and of course climate change very much there as well. Let's start off with what's going on in Israel right now, and what how would you characterize U.S.-Israeli relationship, the U.S.-Israeli relationship now? It's not as close as it was in the Bush era, but where are we?
Well, there's a lot of friction there. I think that there's certainly, a strategic alignment between these two powers. There always will be. But, ultimately, here's the situation where you have two politicians, really coming from diametrically opposing directions. And so I think it's very difficult for them to see where it is that they want to go with this policy. Obama would love to see some kind of movement there in the peace process. And Netanyahu, it's not really politically advantageous for him. So I think things aren't necessarily as bad as everyone's portraying them, but they're really not that positive either.
And what about legislation and programs to reduce joblessness? Where are we with that?
I think that those are some of the things where I think Obama is going to be a little bit more successful. I think that some Republicans are going to be, especially like some of the senators in the Northeast, are going to be a little bit more open to pushing that legislation forward. So I think that's not going to be such a big issue. I think ultimately where you're looking in towards the future is that at this point he's going to have to start making some compromises with the Republicans, if only because he needs those few votes in the Senate to get anything past a filibuster.
John, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. John Raines there from Exclusive Analysis.